talk about editor tools the easy way. So, like I said, I'm Julian. I made a game called Year Unknown. I'll talk more about later. I'm making an OS sim type game. I'll also talk more about later. And I'm the fifth, maybe person to talk about dialogue tools this convention. So, why make editor tools at all? Basically, every game has different needs. Engines are general purpose tools, but they can't really, do everything that you need for your game. Every game has a different needs, and so it's good to customize to that. You don't have to import export from different tools. If you're making something in some other tool and you have to import it, that's going to cause friction. That means you're getting out of the editor. That means you're not getting into the flow state, especially if you're working solo or on a small team. And ultimately, all of this is to save time. You want to work on tools so you save time later. And Godot, obviously, leadership agrees with this. They put this in the statement for the engine that Godot is extensible by design. So this is the game I made. It's called Year Unknown. It's a walking sim dialogue game, I guess. You read a lot. You find terminals and you choose which character you want to talk to, and then once you choose that, it starts a dialogue tree. So I had a wish list for this dialogue system. I want it to be node-based because I just like the look of that. It works well with my mental model of how dialogue works. I needed it to work well with the terminals, the two character system, and I wanted it to be completely in the editor. I didn't want any import or export systems. So making this, I actually started this game in Unity, and the reason I moved to Godot was because making an editor tool for this that did what I wanted was horrible. And this was, to be fair, was back in 2020. Things may have changed. I don't know. I haven't used Unity in that time. But I moved to Godot, and I realized a typo there. Whatever, ignore that. I moved to Godot and found a tool that did about 75% of what I needed. It had the graph-based structure, and it had, was a dialogue system. And from there, I could add or change features to fit the needs of my game. So for instance, here, I have these three characters you can choose from, and those are the three dialogue trees that I need for my game, the intro one and then the two characters. So we did it. All of the dialogue of the game is written in editor. I'm able to tweak it at any time. It's there it is, look at that, it's beautiful. So obviously this means that this was a good decision and that everyone should do this for their game. You should make your own custom dialogue editor for every single game you make. Don't do this. So I'm going to talk about what I call the time paradox. So time spent on tools is, you spend time on tools to save time later. But then the time you spend on those tools is time you're not spending on your game. And then you're trying to spend time figuring out how much time to spend on your tools and how much time to spend on your game. And in the end, usually this results in really half-baked tools, at least for me, it does. So for instance, you can see here, this was a bug. This is still a bug. Unless I refreshed this page, if I press that conditional, it just shows a little weird box because it didn't refresh like what the conditions were for the character. On the right here, yes, the right, you can see if you drag out, I had little things so you could select like a new node that would appear there, but it for some reason appears in the top left. I never fixed this because I didn't bother to. There is only one way to do branching dialogue through conditions, and it's just a true or false. There's no actual Boolean statements. So to do Boolean statements, you have to just chain together a bunch of these, and it turns into spaghetti. So this was not very easy to work with in the end. So what do? This seems like an impossible problem. You have to spend time developing your tools, but you also want to work in your game. How do you make the tools good without just spending infinite amounts of time on them? So I ended up changing my approach. So the main issue is that creating tools is a separate commitment from creating the game. So let's try to build the game with the tools in mind and try to do them together. So there are two Godot features that actually really help with this, and it's custom resources and exports. So to explain what I mean, I'm going to take an example from a game I'm working on now, which, as I said, is an OS simulator or operating system simulator. So something like Windows or Linux or Mac OS or one of the other ones. So there's a lot of things on it, like emails you can read, files you can open, text files, things like that, things that are really data-driven. So, for instance, an email is just a piece of data. so it can be a resource. So if you don't know, in Godot, you can make custom resources by just extending resource, and then you can use export and other export types like export multiline to make those variables exposed in the editor when you're editing that resource. You can also export nested resources. For instance, here there's a date structure, which looks like this. It's just day, month, and year. And you can even define a default. And you can do this for those nested structures. So in this case, I have it set a default. There's a default init function for the date structure that gets set, and that gets set here as well. It makes a new one. And so every time you make a new one in the editor, it just sets all those default values. It creates a new date structure for you. You don't have to worry about creating new ones yourself. So this is what it looks like in the editor. This is nothing new. Like, this is something people have talked about, dozens of times before for Godot, or hundreds of times. It's just an exported it's just a custom resource with some exports. The point is, though, I can go in and edit this in the game, and it basically acts like a custom editor tool. I have another resource that's using these as a mail chain. So it just has a list of emails inside of it, so I can just chain these together. Another thing I did is that resources can be saved as files, and my macOS is going to need a file system for you to explore. So why reinvent the wheel? Godot already has a file system. So all this in green on the left here, that's just the files in my game that the user is going to look at. Those are all the TRES files are all just those custom resources that extend file base. So you can see on the right here, there's file base, and then extending that is file mail. File mail just contains that mail chain resource we had earlier. That's just an exported variable. You put in our resource, we edit it there. There it is. And this makes it so much easier to edit things because I can just go in, use all the standard Godot tools, double click in the file system, edit it in the inspector, and just see everything work and immediately test it. So what's the takeaway here? Basically, think about the editor when you're making your game. When I approached it this way for this new game I'm making, I basically had to write no extra code because it's all resources that are used both in-game and in the editor. Having these tools in your head when you're writing your game will make it so much easier later on when you have to design content, which is the meat and potatoes of the game. There are scenarios where you're going to need custom tools, and that's perfectly fine to make them, and you should, because they can be very useful and valuable. And going back to your unknown, I don't think I would have done it a different way. But thinking about these things can also be very helpful and can help make your game a lot easier to make. Thank you.
So did you end up using the resource technique with your nodes, or you replaced that with your node dialog tree?
So these were two different games. So your unknown shipped with that dialog tree system. It's still like that. It's still broken. But the game is playable, so that's what's important.
Yeah.
But this new game, it doesn't need a dialog tree like that yet. We'll see. But for that, I didn't need something like that. The needs of that game were different. So that's why it's like kind of depends on your game if an editor tool, like a bespoke editor tool, is necessary or not. In this case, I could have gone with that, but I decided to go this route because it worked better for the game. Yeah.
Did you find that your editor tool for the dialogue made localization any easier or harder? Did it affect that process at all?
So I didn't do localization. I would love to. I have no money or time, and I don't know any other languages. In theory, I don't really know. I think that would have been like an extra addition to the custom editor tool, simply because it doesn't. I don't know how well it will work with Godot's inbuilt localization tools. But like making an export of all that stuff to some sort of spreadsheet and then import process wouldn't be crazy. It would be possible. It might have been a bit of extra work though. Yeah.
This might be a niche situation that I found myself in, but I'm curious, have you ever found basically acts like a custom resource, but doesn't have the property of like one single instance, so that you don't have to make it unique every time you copy it. Have you found yourself in that? Does that make sense? Like basically a grouping of properties. That I need a n number of, and but I don't want to copy it each time. I don't want to make unique each time. That's right. Have you found yourself in that situation, or have you found a workaround for it?
Not sure I understand, but I think what you're saying is like you have a list of sort of like properties that you want to save to a resource. Is that?
I don't want the property of the resource being unique. Reference. Thank you.
Yeah, so you want to copy as unique. So I just abused the make unique, the
Yeah.
right click make unique on everything. There are some cases where I actually do like want to have like a list of like all resources of this type, and I do want to reference them. And I do like use both things. But I mean, yeah, use right click copy. I think it's a copy as unique or paste as unique, and then there's also like just make unique. Use those. All right, that's it. Thank you so much.